Welcome to One on One, a series where we sit down with your favorite hospitality professionals. And today we are with the sensational Chef Izu.
Wow, what an introduction.
Thank you so much for your time, Chef Izu.
It's a pleasure.
So you are...
Actually, I was like ambushed into this one.
Yeah, it's okay. We're going to make it worth the while.
Okay.
So, Nigerian-born.
Yes.
UK-raised.
Yes.
French-trained.
Influenced.
French-influenced.
Yes.
Let's start...
I have many multiple influences as well.
Yeah?
So, yeah.
We're going to talk about all of them.
Oh, wow. We got time?
If you have time, I have time.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, let's try and see how many we can get over.
Tell me, who is Chef Izu?
Chef Izu. Oh, la, la. Chef Izu. Okay, Chef Izu was born in Nigeria, was raised in London. I mean, you are a product of your environment, so I'm always never neglecting the two cultures that I have privileged to be a part of. Nigerian is where my origins are, and Britain gave me the access to be raised and educated in the environment. So I'm proud to be both. So yeah. So the age of 18, 19. So I became a British citizen. Originally they said, oh, you have to come for an interview. So I went up all the way to Liverpool to have an interview with them. And the person that interviewed me, we started talking, and he realized, oh, wait a minute, when did you come to this country? And I said, very young. Normally you go through one process to another. Before you get the citizenship, you get the stay and everything. So he recognized that my accent was, or my Britishness, or the way I spoke was quite, well, I had a bit of education. So he said, but you speak English is the same as, yeah, proper, yeah, jolly good. So he kind of just ticked the boxes and just said, okay, let's just move on to the passport. So I just literally went from being an alien into a citizenship straight away. So that was quite cool. The age of 18, got the passport. I started working at 16 actually.
What did you do?
Yeah. I started working, so I left school at 16. 16 years old, left school, worked in Greg's Bakery. I got into cooking when I was about 14, when we had to choose our GCSEs, which subjects to choose. I chose home economics.
Why?
Yeah, why? Mm-hmm. It's a very simple reason. Home economics was predominantly female. Mm-hmm. So when I saw there was a class full of female girls at the time, because they weren't mm-hmm. developed, I said I want to be there because, again, I kind of liked being with the females.
Of course you did.
So I chose the class because it was girls in the class. Very simple. Yeah, but I always give people the other story. Yeah, I love the love of cooking and the taking food home to my mother. No, it was simple because I had a bigger percentage because I was the only guy in the class. So the
you needed an advantage point.
Hey, I tried to, unknowingly, I tried to live in the moment. So I left school at 16, carried on cooking. I went to college for 3 months, and I didn't stop flirting with the young ladies. So I got kind of suggested, I don't think this is for you. So, because my attention span wasn't great. So I was suggested to try something a bit more manual. Elsewhere.
Where you could focus.
Exactly. So I left, and I saw this job advert, training scheme for white NVQ in Greg's Bakery. So it was a bakery. So you get trained to be one of the managers. They will take you through and I said, wow, at the age of 16, I could be a manager. So I applied, got interviewed. Somehow they said, okay. So you start off in a shop. So you serve the sausages, sausage rolls, the sandwiches, the buns and everything. But while I was serving, I mean, you weren't allowed to use calculators. So you had to kind of do the maths in your head quickly. They give you money, you exchange. Yeah. And my maths was quite terrible. So I used to take time, and there was a queue of people still waiting. And so after a while, they kind of said, the manager called me into the office and said, Izu, I don't think this is going to work. So I was let go, but they suggested if you get your maths to a certain level, you can come back. So, okay, I was told to leave, so I left. And I went to, I enrolled in a college to try and get my maths going. So I did that for like 2 months. I thought, okay, I can add 2 plus 2. I got 4 now. I'm getting better. So I went back and they gave me a test. And they said, still not there. So basically that day they said no. And they say, carry on training, carry on improving, come back. And I was quite cheesed off. And so I said, the same day I left there, I went to the careers advice job seekers. And the same day I met somebody. And the same day they said to me, okay, I explained, I was still a young boy, 16. And I came for a very, we didn't have much financially, and my mother was working 4 jobs, so she didn't have time to occupy or even exchange with me to try and advise me. I didn't have a father, so my mother was my father and my mother at the same time, and breadwinner and everything and home. So I had to do a lot of things alone. So when I saw the job seeker, we explained. The same day they said to me, okay, you seem to be a bit more, you like to do things with your hand, to achieve things with your hand. Okay, carry on cooking. Why don't you go and work, train a YTS scheme, so you could do like 4 days a week working, and 1 day in college where you don't really like, but you at least do one fill forms out. So they sent me to David Lloyd's club. It's a tennis club. He used to be a very famous tennis player. He created a tennis center. And I went there for an interview with the chef. So I met the chef. He said to me, okay, he had 2 people that he had to choose from. So 2 young kids. So he gave both of us a task. 2 days, we'll do 16 hours a day, each day, and then have a day off, and 2 days. So we have to do that in a week. So I've never done 16-hour job in my life. So I did 16 hours first day, second day, 16 hours. Basically, I had to clean pots and open up the cans, and I did the whatever I needed to do. So I did that. Second day tired, another day, and then I had day off, and another day. So at the end of the week, the other guy, he just said, I'm not doing this. And I stayed the course. And then from there, he said to me, okay, I'll take you under my wings. So he took me under his wings, showed me how to do the fancy salads a bit better, put the little parsley, a little tree on top to make it beautiful. And then from there I stayed and I did my YTS scheme. I did 1 day in school, and then we went back to normal hours. I did 16 hours a day most of the time because we didn't have many staff, and those who did come, they left. So we had a lot of temp work. His name was Ian Crow. I always remember him. He was I think my first mentor. He gave me such a tough time, but he also said to me, if you survive with me. So I stayed a year with him, and I did my YTS scheme, and so I did the assessments. They used to come and see me do this, chop this, write. I did the necessary. I wasn't an A student, but I passed. So after the year, when I passed, he said, congratulations. And he said to me, what do you want to do now? I said, I don't know. And he said to me, okay, I've got a position for you in Sheraton Bay Graveyard. So he sent me to Sheraton Bay, my first 5-star hotel. I was like, whoa, 5-star hotel. So I went there, had an interview with the chef. The chef was an Australian. He was a bit bullish, a bit suave, a bit rough. And then he said, okay, come, you can start. So I started with him. I did breakfast, cooking fried eggs, cooking omelets. I mean, probably I don't even. They gave me a choice to do the level 3 of the MVQ, which is just mainly pastry, which I love pastry. So Sheraton sponsored me to do that. So I did the level 3, and I did it with John Hubert. John Hubert was one of the famous pastry chefs. Teachers and all that. He used to be good friends with Michel Roux and Albert Roux, which is the first 3 Michelin star chefs. So I was like in awe when I went to Jean Hubert. He's a French as well. Oh, monsieur, you think you can cook? I go like, pastry? Yeah, rubbish. Okay, rubbish, but tell me. No. You have to first do this, do that. And so I learned the hard way. But one thing he did teach me, he taught me that pastry had a discipline. If you didn't have discipline, you would never get it. Cooking, you can always add a bit more, lick it, taste it, add salt, add more of this, add more of that, you make something. Pastry in the oven is done, that's it. You've mixed it, it's done. So you have to be quite disciplined. And I think that was one of the best decision I made to go into pastry. So I left the kitchen and just continued pastry. So I did the year there. I fell in love with it because it was quite disciplined. Me, I wasn't very disciplined in myself, but to achieve something, you have to have a certain amount of discipline. And I've learned it. Now it's been more prominent in my way of thinking, because without discipline, you can't achieve consistency. And one of my phrases nowadays, discipline is real freedom. Because with discipline, you get to choose how you want to live, how you want to see things. Because at the end of the day, there will be so many glitter things that could take your eye, take your attention away. But with discipline, you get to choose how you express. And it gives you that sense of freedom, of choice. But that, I never knew all this was like culminating in how I'm going to be thinking later on. So I stuck in pastry. So after in Sheraton, got my level 3. I did all the assessment.
Look at you.
Exactly. So I said it's time to move on. Did a year there, and Ian again said, "Okay, you ready for the next job?" So he sent me to Nutfield Priory in Surrey, next to Red Hill. It was like a country house hotel, beautiful, very quaint. And you get to live in, you get a staff accommodation.
Nice.
But I did pastry, so I stuck in pastry. So I stayed in pastry, and I did a year there again. And then Ian goes to me, "What do you want to do next?" But because I worked for the chef there, and he really liked me, and we got on very well. He had another opportunity to leave the hotel to go somewhere else. So he went to Selsdon Hotel in Croydon. It's a bigger hotel. And he said to me, "I want you to come with me." I was only 18. That was my toughest week of my life, where I started at 5 every single day. And then Friday, I started at 5 in the morning, and I did it because I had so much work, so much buffet and everything, and I stayed overnight. So I did a 24-hour shift. And then on a Saturday, literally when everything, so Friday morning I started at 5, done all the buffet, done the a la carte, done everything all alone. And then the Saturday night when I finished, we had weddings as well, so I finished and I was like dead. I was literally exhausted. He comes and gives me a lollipop. And I will never forget that. He goes, "Here, well done." He didn't want to say well done, he just gives me a lollipop.
That was his way.
His way of giving me a thing. So, and then we built a bond, Stephen Kane. So I stayed there with him for a year. And then when I decided I wanted to leave, and I found a job in the Square, it's a 2 Michelin star. A friend of mine said to me, go to the Square. And I phoned up Phil Howard. And I said to him, a little bird told me, just like this, a little bird told me that you're looking for chefs. He goes, "Don't listen to little birds." I mean, they might be telling you the wrong thing. He's just like a straight room. And he goes, "Okay, come down, 3 o'clock, Monday, come and see me with your CV, and then we talk." So I went to see Phil, and I was there 2:30. I said, 3 o'clock. Okay, so come back at 3 o'clock. So I had to leave. So I left. Okay, chef, okay, and I just left. At 3 o'clock, I was there. I didn't get credit for being early, so anyway, he just said, boom, he kicked me out. I came back at 3 o'clock, and it was a back alley. So we sat at he looked at me and said, "Okay." He said to me, "Come next week, do a day with us, and then we'll see." That's it. There wasn't much conversation. It was just, so, okay, I came back, did a day. He gives me a commie position. I was so proud. And I told Stephen Kane I'm going to leave. So I left, started to refill. It was the worst experience I've ever had. For 3 months, I gave my notice 3 times. I was like, every time I was serving the amuse bouche, I would break things. I was like shaking. I was on pastry making this, but I was getting it wrong. And literally we used to do 18 hours a day. If you don't come in time by 6 o'clock, you won't get little containers to put your mise en place. And then you'll be like looking for things to be able to organize yourself to do your stuff. And if you don't get your stuff right, He destroyed you. He made you feel not manly.
Right, right, I get you.
Yeah, so it was, because it was so high, it was the first time I've ever worked in such a high tempo place. And 3 months in, I gave my notice. The last time I gave my notice, Phil said, "Are you sure?" Chef, I can't do it. I'm not to the standard. He goes, "It's up to you. Only you decide that you're up to the standard. I'm not here to tell you if you're up to the standard." And I thought about it, and I just said okay, and I stayed. And then something's changed. I got more aggressive because I had to survive. It's not about you being the little nice kid, because I was when I was young, I never used to say how I feel to people. I never used to say anything. I always used to absorb everything, and then when it blows, and everything is. So I remember when I was really, I got cheesed off with Stephen, and I said, "You effing this, blah, blah, blah." And he took it. But also he understood that I had a little bit of fight in me. I wasn't,
fire.
yeah. And that also came back, I had another chef, Jack Chibois, a French chef, 2 Michelin star. He pushed me to the limit where I just blew. But he was the best teacher. Flavor-wise, I don't think I've had any chef understood how to compose flavors together, it was like an orchestra. He used to turn something which didn't look like nothing into something tasty. He's the one that taught me how to use fat, how fat relates to the palate, how it clings to the palate so your brain can be able to analyze it and enjoy it for longer. But using too much of it also makes it sickly. So you have to dose it in a way. And it was in Grasse, basically the capital of perfume. And he taught me how they used to create flavors. They used to extract flavors from flowers with fat. So he explained the whole process, and I went to a factory and understood. He's one that really taught me the science behind food, because understanding the science behind food gets you involved in understanding how everything is constructed. Because when you're just working on the outside, you're looking in, you're only a bystander, you're not a constructor, you're not a builder, you're not with the whole structure. And that he did me a 360 way on how to look at food. But anyway, so I stayed in the square, and I got aggressive, and I moved up. Phil was so surprised. I did all the sections. I was the only one that did all the sections. And at the time when I was working at the square, I had about 4 chefs who became 2 Michelin star chefs themselves. So I was working with the best of the best at the time, right, in London. I had Anthony Boyd, I had Anthony Ely, I had Shane who got a 2 Michelin star. But I literally earned the badge to work in all the sections. The hardest section was the hot section, where hot starters was the hardest section. You used to cook foie gras, langoustine, scallops, basic, but you had to cook it point. There's one day, that was my one of the highlights. And there you're the salamander there, the cooks, the stove is there. And literally, all the hot starters was like 90% of the orders that come. The cold starter, the salads, they twiddled their thumb, did a few salads. That night it was 100%. And Phil was on the pass. He's a bit extravagant. He's an owner, but he's always with us. And that day we didn't have the head chef there, so he took the pass. And Phil was not the most organized person, but his palate, his cooking is the best. But him organizing the kitchen, oh la la. So he was calling the checks, and sometimes he missed the tables. But that night I got 100% all the starters, and when I did all the sections, I'm 19, going on to 20. I said to Phil, it's time for me to move on. And the reason why it got me to move on, said it's time to move on, because when we're in the kitchen, we always used to use a lot of the French terminologies, envoyer, chaud, this. And French cuisine was one of the predominant leaders of the culinary world, and it was revered. It was like the Mecca. But I was using all these terminology without understanding it. And I said, I want to learn French. And I said to my mom, I want to learn French. My mom said, yeah, go to college like you did for the thing. I mean, because at the time I became a chef de partie, which I was earning for at the time it was a great money. And my mother was like so happy. I was bringing money home. I said, I want to go and work in France, but you don't speak the language. So I had a friend at work. I used to work. He was French guy. His girlfriend parents had a restaurant in Alsace. Because I told him I want to go and learn French. He goes, well, I'll speak to my girlfriend and see. And then, okay. So they said, come down for a weekend and have
like a little visit.
A little visit. So I went to Alsace, Auberge Atzenheim. That's the place next to Colmar. No, yeah, I mean, I tell people I lived in Alsace. But why? I said, I mean, why not? It's because it's a French border. It's a border between Germany and it used to be Germany before in the 2 world wars. It turned hands. So I went there for a weekend. It was freezing, but I loved it, and I didn't know one word of French. Not one word of French.
What was it about it that made you love it so much?
It's a discovery. I mean, it's now becoming more evidence. All the things I've been through, why I did it. Because I love to live a life like a kid. Because when you live a life like a kid, you see life differently. It's undisturbed. It hasn't got this perception of prejudgment. And you're fearless in the sense of the word, that you want to discover why, what. You put things in your mouth to taste because you're a kid. You lick the floor. You have no sense of understanding. You just want to learn. And I loved it. And I mean, coming from born in one culture, grew up in another culture, you build up layers. So I had 2 languages. I had my native tongue, which is Igbo, and then English was my secondary language. I don't know, maybe it was the buzz of learning something new. And I remember, it's actually one of the things that got me interested. It was, we used to use this word nage. Nage was it's like a stock. I never knew what it was. We used to make it a lot. And I remember when Phil used to say, you need to make it light, you need to be just flavoursome, but not too heavy. And then when I decided to move to France and I started living in France, I understood what nage was. And that's so weird. It got me to think that words have a direction. There's a reason why we use words. It's to give you where to go. So nage basically means to swim. So to swim. So that means the vegetables need to swim in a lot of water. You can't swim in a small
puddle.
Yeah, exactly, in a puddle. You need to swim in a large. And nage is so it swims freely. So the end product needs to be very light, not tight, not like a stock. A stock is a very aggressive. It's a stock. It's a costo. It's like it's there. This doesn't need to be there. It just needs to be a part of the whole journey. It just plays a base. So the whole principle of a nage is to give a beginning. It's not to be the end. So you lay other things on top of it. So you use it as a starting block. Instead of just using water, you use this. So it has a fragrance of all the different vegetables. So you can add other things. So other things can come in. So you can give it a very delicate feel journey to the flavor. And I understood that. That all came and I said, wow. And when we used to say envoyer, chaud, chaud means hot, by the way. So when I used to say chaud, 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 I didn't even know I was saying what I was. It was like open eureka moment, understanding something. So I went to France. I started living, and I didn't understand one word of French, and people found that very weird that I did that. I didn't even have a base. I started learning French, but the thing is, I learned French for 4.5 years, and I went to a place where literally there was no one speaking English, so I was forced to learn French. Alsace is probably another place that I call home. I made family there. People that are friends became family, because Alsace is a place where the way they feel about things, they don't jump and say, oh, it's like the south of France. It's like they come to see you. You're a friend already, oh, mon ami, but they're not real. Alsace is a place where they stand back to understand
Get to know you.
Get to know you. But when they give everything. And they become, and now they're like family. And I always said that my family, I said to them, I want to build my house here one day. And they said to me, and I said to them, can you get me a land? They said, Izu, are you crazy? Whenever you're ready to build, we'll give you one. Because over there was really countryside. So families had the lands everywhere. They said, we'll give you one of our lands. You can build your house there. And I was like, and I said, no, Izu, you're crazy. And they kicked me out. But every time I go there, I'm not allowed to stay anywhere in a hotel. I have to stay with them in their house.
That's real family right there.
That's real family. So yeah, but Alsace taught me a lot, and I worked in Oberjatzenheim, and then I moved up to Rickvier, Kaisersberg, and I now went to Auberge de Lille. It's a free Michelin star, the second oldest free Michelin star in the world. That was an institute. But I had to work up to that. So the family that I started, Auberge, the husband used to work there. And he said to me, Izu, you work with us for a year, or over a year, we'll put you over there. And so I worked with them for a year and a bit, and then they got me in. And I came as a commis again, in a free Michelin star restaurant, my proudest moment. And I was the first black person to work there as a chef. And that's where it opened my eyes to many things. And that was my time when I was like, I used to just buy books just to understand just the simple things of what is fat, what is butter. And then when I went to Jacques Chibois, so I worked there for a year and a half. And then they asked me, where do I want to go? Because I said, okay, I probably won't finish the season or finish the season. But again, they start to organize the whole team. So I think I just barely nearly finished the season. So I said, okay, I want to go to Michel Bras. Michel Bras is a free star. Michel Bras is another, and because it's a mafia. At the end of the day, you work in these places, they send you everywhere. You got connection. They all know each other.
You're in. You're in.
Exactly, you're in. So I went to, I had an interview with Michel Bras. Michel Bras said, okay, you can come. And then I was a chef de partie. And then he said, this is salary. I said, huh? Huh? That's half of what I'm doing. I don't know, that's question, but I want to make some money now. But this is Michel Bras. You literally work for free. Literally, you work for free. And I said, what about Jacques Chibois? A few months later, I came in early to do my mise en place. He was making a new recipe. And he said, Izu, come. He comes. He has a cep velouté he was working on. He goes, Izu, taste this. I tasted. Very tasty, chef. C'est très bon, chef. C'est super. C'est top. I said, okay. Brings a little bit of olive oil, sticks a little bit in there, takes a lump of butter, lump of butter, just swizzles it. Not in the heat, swizzles it. And the thing starts to emulsify. And he goes, taste this now. I taste it. I go, wow. Wow. No, it was like night and day. I said, wow. And he goes to me, yeah. Do you know what just happened there? What you did, you used fat to be the referee, to bring all the different components, flavors to work together, to be in harmony. So the palate can have time to absorb the flavors. Because in your tongue, and he told me that in your tongue you have minute little holes. These little holes are the things that hold the palate, your senses. And if you drink water, because there's no fat in it, it goes, when there's fat, it coats these holes. It allows the tongue to communicate with the senses, the brain, to register, to everything come, for you to enjoy the flavor for longer. If there's too much fat, it covers the holes, it makes it sickly, it becomes too heavy. And as he goes to me, that's where the point of understanding how to use fat is to respect it, but know how essential it is. It absorbs. He used to do something weird. Every service before, he used to open people's fridges. Yeah, he used to even taste the butter. He used to taste the butter. And sometimes we don't wrap the butter. He used to kill someone who doesn't wrap the butter. He goes to me, the butter, because you put it in the fridge, absorbs all the flavors in the fridge. And when you use that butter to flavor something, it gives that flavor back into it. So it disturbs the cleanness of the flavor you want to achieve. And he was just like, the guy was like, he was a scientist in his head.
Method to the madness.
Exactly. And that's why I respected. As much as the way he communicated things were orthodox, it wasn't kind of like Catholic per se. I respected the message he was trying to teach. He had tough love rather than soft love. You had to have a hard skin to absorb it. And I stayed, and he taught me so much. He taught me so much. I had to cook. I had to be a chef. And I left. And when I left, we kept in touch. I went back to London, and I went back to the Square. And I stayed 3 years with Phil. I became his right hand. I ran the kitchen for him for 3 years. And then after that 3 years, I decided I wanted to go and learn something else. I went to Spain. I worked at Arzac. I worked at Mogaritz. Arzac is a 3 Michelin star. And the reason why I went to Spain is because Spain, the Spanish cuisine was like, they were innovation. They were out there. They were like taking the status quo to another level. They were redefining what limits of what you can do. Like El Bulli, the restaurant, Farinara. So I wanted to be a part of it. So I went to Arzac. Arzac was a brilliant experience. Mogaritz was a brilliant experience in another term because it showed me what not to do. Spain, 9 months for free. That was a great lesson. But it taught me a lot as well. Because you have to invest in you. Again, everybody, I was earning 60,000 pounds at the time at the Square. My mother, you're gonna leave again to work for free? So basically I had to borrow money because for 9 months I just bought a property as well, so I had to pay for the property. Actually, I bought a property, it's very funny, I bought a property in Saint-Tropez, my first ever property.
In Saint-Tropez?
In Saint-Tropez. I told you I do things not for the sense of it, because I loved it. I went there, I had Phil Howard, we had one of our best clients. One of our best clients, he was the CEO of De Beers mine in Diamond, and he was retiring. I mean, he had a villa in Saint-Tropez, and he wanted to do his retirement over there. It's a little town called Le Gadfrene on top of Grimaud. So Saint-Tropez is there, Port Grimaud, Le Gadfrene. Cogolan is there. So Phil said, okay, Izu, can you do this? Because I can't go, but if you can go and cook for him for the weekend. So I went and cooked for him for the weekend. And I went there. His villa was just underneath Le Gadfrene. It was just in the Gad. And I just fell in love with the place. It was in the middle of nowhere, beautiful. It was just insanely beautiful. I loved it. Little quaint town. I just fell in love. And they put me in an apartment, a little residence place, and I loved it. And I said, I want to buy one. So I went to the estate agent, I inquired, they showed me one, I bought one. I didn't have money. So I had to borrow money there, over leverage everything. And my first property was in Saint-Tropez. My mother goes, you're crazy. Buy something you live in, not something that you have over there. I said, why? But it is what it is. So
it is what it is.
I bought it, but I'll tell you a story about that later. So I cooked for him, enjoyed it, and I bought the property. Left, went to Spain, spent 9 months. Stayed there for 9 months. But Mogaritz, as I said, taught me things that you don't. It taught you how to think as well. So I taught them how to make a consommé properly. I was working for free for 4 months for them. And I started showing them how to do things. And they started looking at me. Because everyone comes as a commie and not paid. There was one time I was in Pastry, and they were trying to do a new dessert, a chocolate bomb, a chocolate cone. John Hubert taught me the composition of chocolate.
How to understand, yes.
How to understand it. So I had to get both of them to talk to each other. So what you do, you melt it at a very high temperature where both of them melts. And then you lower it where both of them can set. And then you bring it up to working temperature.
Right.
Because you put it up, melted it. So now, at that temperature, roughly about 31 degrees, 32 degrees, they both merge together. And they're happy together. But they didn't understand that. So I did that. and I made my chocolate balls, and they all came in the morning, and I had these chocolate balls made up, and they looked at it and said, "Putain, madre, qui a fait eso? Qui a fait eso?" Yo, I made it. And I said, "How'd you know? How'd you do that?" I said, "But chocolate has different fat composition. You have to be able to make."
Like I was saying.
Exactly. Then they looked at my CV, because you have to give a CV, and they saw me worked at 3 Michelin stars, 2 Michelin stars, and all these different stars, and they kind of thought, "Okay, you can cook." And they stuck me in meat. So I did pastry, and they stuck me in meat. So I was at the chef de party running. So I wasn't being paid, but I was running a section. And then after my 4 months over, they said, "Okay, we'll pay you to stay." And I said, "No, I really, no." I wanted to go to Barcelona. I had a place where I would just learn how to cook paella. So I learned how to cook paella for a month. So I went to this place in a little town just cooking paella. But anyway, when I was in Mogadishu, I learned how to make a special dish that a lot of people would know in Dubai now. It's called torrika, which is French toast. But they did it in a very scientific way, but in a very intelligent way as well, but very tasty way. And I was like, the French toast was very, French toast, pain perdu, is lost bread. So it's old bread which has been found. And you soak it in milk and butter, milk and eggs and sugar and vanilla, whatever. But the way they did it was they did it in stages. They made brioche, a certain type of brioche with a certain type of fat content, and they dry it, and then they do this and they do that. One of the best French toasts. I spent 9 months for free there. This is a great lesson I teach kids nowadays. You have to invest in you to be able to get something. The French toast was one of the things that people used to come to La Petite Maison for when I opened La Petite Maison. La Petite Maison, I had a customer that sat down, because we always make a certain amount, because you can't just make it aluminium. It takes an hour and a half. It takes a preparation. So we had a certain amount. The first sitting, they used to take it. And then the second sitting didn't have much left. There was one customer who came. Before he ordered anything, make sure you get 2 French toasts on the side for me. And we said, sorry, there's no French toast. He goes, no, I came here for the French toast. He got up with his family and left. I was like, seriously? I mean, that was 2010, huh? In Dubai when I came here. Ima called me. Actually, a lot of people called me. And they said, but we're offering you big money here. And I told my wife goes, go back there and take the money. I said, but no, I want my own restaurant. I stuck to my gun. I said, I want my own restaurant. So they said to me, okay, you have to be brave to believe in where you want to get to. And this was a part of the test, because I was paid this, that, but I just didn't want to take the easy road. So I went back and I created La Serre. And then La Serre did well. Koya started booming, and then once again Sanjeev, who took over the
culinary director.
Yeah, he called me and said, "Izu, thank you very much." I said, "Why are you thanking me? It's your baby." I mean, but today I think we can safely say Gaia has a bit more to say about that.
Nicely done.
Sometimes it takes time, but you have to believe in the process.
Yes.
And now, basically, I have different layers of restaurants, which takes after my philosophy of cooking, and I believe food is about the belief, a concept in the sense of how you want other people to feel. What is the overarching principle of why you're doing things? People think things are created by recipes. It's not created by recipes. And people ask me the question, how do you maintain, or how do you maintain the same recipe over there? I don't maintain the same recipe. It's about a philosophy. You ingrain the philosophy of how to respect yourself, respect your environment, respect the ingredients, understand the ingredients, understand the environment. Everything else happens to achieve the end goal. And in French we always say, pour savoir aimer, il faut s'aimer. Simply translate, to know how to love, you have to love yourself. And that's the first thing I started doing, because again, to be okay with anybody, you have to be okay with yourself. And I started to dedicating a lot of time for myself, to understand myself, and all these messages that I got over my years, I started mapping them and putting them together. And then it changed the way I look at what I do nowadays. And
you have been here a long time now.
13 years.
13
I'm coming up to
years.
14 years.
Yeah. I read somewhere you said something very interesting once. You said people don't want to eat your ego.
What I was saying is that I live in a society that I'm a part of. I want to leave something. Because again, a lot of people used to come to Dubai with a transit mentality. They come for a certain amount of time, they don't leave anything. Because when you live in a transit, you do not make routes. You do not take your luggage out. You do not hang your clothes.
No.
Because you're in a existence of limbo, moving on to elsewhere. So whenever you're moving on to somewhere, you can never be able to build something, because you can't build anything because you know it's not permanent. And I stopped thinking in that way of living in a transit when I went on to work at Lasser, or to open Lasser. I started to live, I started to create, because this is where I live, this is where I want to be. And I bought a house. Because before, I wouldn't think of buying a house because I was living in limbo. I didn't buy a car, that's why I was renting. So again, all these things stops you from expressing who you are. And I think all of us that go to any place, any society, have a duty to exchange. Because again, life is an exchange policy. It's not always monetary. You can't get something if you don't give something. You can't get something from a culture if you don't give part of you. You can't receive without also exchanging something. So living in Dubai, why should I give it any less of importance? Because it's new. No, it's a beautiful culture, it's rich. It has a lot to teach me. A lot of people used to come here and think, my culture is better, let me teach them. No, you come to learn, and then you can exchange your culture, here's mine. Back in the olden days, how they used to make, they didn't have money.
But
he had potatoes, he had carrots, I'll give you potato, you give me carrot, I'll make a soup. He had leeks, I'll take a bit of leek. And that's how everything was exchanged. Now we all think exchange is monetary. No, it's also emotional. So now I stopped thinking Dubai was a stopgap. Dubai is my home. Whenever, if tomorrow it ceases to become that, then I change, and nothing frightens me. It doesn't frighten me to change. I mean, change is good. Change is, I mean, again, when I got kicked out of La Petite Maison, I thought, oh, this is a disaster. No, it was the beginning of becoming who I can become. We are the people that put the limitations on ourselves. In our mind, there's two worlds. There's two worlds. The actual and the one we make in our head. Both of them don't agree with each other, because this is full of dreams. This is what it is. Like it or lump it. It is what it is. But the thing is, a lot of times we think that we should give up this world to exist in this world, because this world is so powerful, it's so dominant. No, I disagree. This world has a place to be in this world, but it takes time. It takes persistence, it's consistency. It takes that to put it out in the universe, and it will come. And it does.
It does.
Because you got to keep believing. But also you have to keep making the steps. Because when you keep making the step and believing at the same time, things, it's like yielding to that greater objective. Because I spend like 2-3 hours every day by myself. Like today I was cycling 3 hours. There's a word I care about, which I love: consistency in pursuit. Because again, it becomes like the discipline. If you discipline yourself, but to be able to have discipline, you must consistently practice. The brain is a muscle. For it to get stronger, you need to practice that willpower. Yeah, if you don't engage with it, because this world also had dark side, and sometimes we just want to take the good side. But no, you engage in all of it. Your emotions is a complete. You got anger, you got happiness, you got sadness. All these make up who you are.
You don't get to pick.
Embrace all of it. All of it makes who you are. And then it helps you to deal with this world. And it helps this world to yield to a certain extent. So again, living in Dubai, I had to give something back to receive something. It's given me so much. It's given me so much. I don't know how to say. The only way I can thank it is by leaving something. And that's why I say, now I'm persisting in telling people, you want to survive in having a beautiful restaurant in Dubai, you have to be good. Give people, because back then, because people used to come and give rubbish, because they weren't exposed to a certain level. But now, more restaurants I'm involved and persist in creating perfection to a certain term. Because my principle of cooking is like honesty. You have to be honest. Because whenever you're not honest about what you're delivering, you're going to try and hide it, or you're going to try and find a way to mask it. And then basically you're telling a lie. So the food I do is always about the ingredients. Get the best ingredient and become lazy, because you deliver something which is you. But you got to believe in that. You have to be you first before you can give someone you. So that's how I look at my food, is being honest and naked. And I like to do less, but also give more. And I think that's why now a lot of restaurants I've worked with, many chefs now have become good chefs around, which I'm proud. I mean, when I see people doing my recipes, I'm so proud, because imitation is the best form of flattery. And it makes me proud. I say, go for it, buddy. But sometimes it's not the recipe.
It's the philosophy.
Exactly.
What is your next great adventure?
Oh, there's endless. I don't put limits. I live in the now. And because, again, I always believe in, when you're anxious, you're living in the past. You're living in the future. When you're angry, you're living in the past. If you're living now, you got to smile. And you wake up with a smile, with a positivity. Because, again, I like to wake up every single day and be grateful. There are many things, many reasons could turn me not to be grateful. But I will say, if I find so many reasons not to be grateful, do you know what I do? I get a glass, pour water in it, and drink it. Because I can do that.
On your own?
On my own. Because I have a friend of mine, and he's got motor neuron disease. He's on his, he's been 7 years like that. He's a good friend of mine. He's the one that helped me build La Serre. He has motor neuron disease. He can't do anything nowadays, and I think of him deeply every single day. I did a meal for him, for his wife, because his wife doesn't get out much. So I did 3 restaurants in one evening for her birthday, just for her. And he was there watching. He couldn't eat because everything's fed. And that was at the time that he could still speak in the computer, that he can blink. Now he can't do that much. He said to me, Izu, I miss to eat, I miss to drink. These words are so profound. The things we take for granted every single day. And then we find reason to be sad, to be miserable. We don't have that reason. And that's why I said, when I see miserable people, I said, love you, ciao. We might not see each other again. And the thing is, it got me to think more and more. We're animals, but we think we're the intelligent animals. But animals use their senses for communication, for understanding. When a gazelle sees a lion, he's not going to stop and say, that lion is going to be a friend of mine. And that gazelle thinks, I'm not staying. He's going to go. And but their senses become more acute. Humans, our senses become less, because we're trying to put everything on our intelligence. But you can smell someone's energy. You can smell by their smile, by the way they...
Absolutely.
But we still say, no, probably... But that person will come and drain your energy, and you say, and you leave you and you go, what happened there? But you
feel exhausted.
Exactly. So nowadays, I'm more strict on myself. I only surround myself with those that has an energy that rebuilds, but I can share with them. Because again, as I get older, I'm 46. I've gone to understand that less is more. I'd rather have less and more quality. So I'd rather have less people around me, but better. I'd rather eat less, but better. I'd rather drink less, but better. Because again, what am I going to do in such a mass where I can't affect anything? I mean, there's so much different varieties of restaurants. Before I even could do something, I need to understand it. And it will take time. So, I know, of course, you offer me shitloads of money, I'll make you a millionaire, but I don't need millions. To be honest, what am I going to do with it?
You know who you are.
Exactly. Because again, how much do we need to accumulate? What we need to take with us? In
this lifetime, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, alhamdulillah, I can eat, I can feed my kids, And I like what Steve Harvey, it wasn't him that said it, it was somebody who was interviewed and said, it's not what you leave for your kids, it's what you leave in them. And it's so beautiful. These are the things that we should be focusing on. It's not about what we leave for them, it's what we leave with them. And kids, they absorb things they see rather than things you tell them. That's what I do. I absorb things I see. You can tell me as many things, but so every day I get up about 5-ish, I go cycling. I don't tell my kids to go running or go do it. They do it naturally now.
Because they're seeing you do it.
Exactly. Everything is about, to be a leader, you have to be in the front. You can't be at the back. Yeah, and you can't just tell people what to do. You have to show them what to do. You have to be with them.
Now, I understand this hotel we're sitting in right now, Hyatt Centric. You are the champion of all of their F&Bs, and you have something interesting coming up really soon.
Yes. I'm not one of their champions. The whole hotel, the whole F&B is run by us. It's run by the team that I work with. Because we envelop the whole hotel. It's one of the first actually in Dubai, where every single F&B point, touch point, is owned by us. We don't have a buffet. I don't believe in buffet, because when you come in the morning, you see a buffet. The first person that walks in, great, he has a great buffet. The end person, the sausage is like this, the bacon is like that, and the scrambled eggs, you don't want to touch it. So we said, no, we're going to have everybody giving love. And every single plate that is plated for breakfast is done by the chefs. They can have everything: croissant, fruits, fruit platters, cold cuts, eggs, everything. And also, we did it more for the experience rather than the aspect of sustainability. Because again, buffets, there's a lot of waste.
Yes.
With this, you control the quantities. I mean, because a buffet, if it's not eaten, what do you do with it? Again, these are the things that we should be mindful of. But again, at the beginning, the Hyatt kind of brand didn't understand doing a la carte breakfast for everybody. But it's become one of the things that everyone look forward to coming. And we have many great comments. Room service, even the lounge, the food, everything. I mean, I work with Trevor, the executive chef. I mean, he has the philosophy. He understands how to touch food. He understands how to touch ingredients, how to work with these guys. Nobody works for us. Everyone works with us. And now we're going to be opening my first, actually, not my first, but it has a deep love, because it's named after my younger son. It's called Kai Enzo. But also it captures the two cultures that enamels or represents who I am. The Japanese culture, where it's all about the product, it's all about the quality rather than the aspect. It's about the giving. And the Mediterranean is all about the ingredients, it's all about the less. So the two work together because they share the same philosophy. I was in Japan last week, and every restaurant I went to, you look at the decoration and go, what happened? You didn't get a designer. The food, it's like I always have this saying, in Japan, you find it hard to have a bad meal. Yeah, and that's but it shows because they want to give you the best. You can't give tips because it's an insult for them. For them, it's an insult for you to give them a tip, because that's why they're there. They're there to give you something, and they're not there to take. You pay for your meal, but that's the exchange. I mean, and I love that. They're honest in giving. And also they have a philosophy in food is a medicine, which is so close to my heart, because food is there to nourish, is there to prevent, because the medicines you take is there to rectify. But if you prevent, if you eat well, because during COVID, we never brandish this kind of philosophy of eating well, resting, stress, and all that. Do you know how many people try to stress me? I look at it and go, no.
Not today.
No, never. Because again, you want to give your anxiety to me, but no, everyone has to deal with their own. And that's important. Stress is a poison in your body. And you have to try and understand how to eliminate that. Don't be anxious. Don't be angry of what happened yesterday. You can't change yesterday. You can't change what's tomorrow because you don't know what tomorrow gives. So where are you? You're now. You deal with it. I mean, but approach it with a positivity and something good will come. So these are the kind of things I try and live a balance. And I always say, one of my phrases is, don't live a diet, live a lifestyle. Because diet is very restrictive in how to experience life.
Right.
And the lifestyle leaves endless opportunities for experience.
So, Chef, I want to do something fun for you to wrap up.
Okay.
So this is rapid fire questions, yeah? So I'm going to give you a bit of this and that, and you choose what speaks to you the most.
Done.
Day or night?
I'm not. A day.
Day. Sugar or spice?
Spice.
Red or white?
I'll say red.
Nice. Vacation or staycation?
You know, staycation.
Coffee or tea?
Oh, come on. I think that's very easy, coffee.
Glass half full or glass half empty?
I will eliminate both of them. I'll say my glass is always full.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Chef. This is amazing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.